Welcome to TheKillFile, your favorite true crime podcast with host Britney Spears. Settle in and lock your doors as we crawl into the dark corners of true crime. In TheKillFile, nothing stays buried forever.
Hello, and welcome to episode 106 of TheKillFile. I am so glad that you guys are back for another story. Before we jump into today's case, a few quick reminders. First, please take a second to rate, review, subscribe, or follow the podcast anywhere you listen for the newest episodes every Monday, and it is one of the best ways to support this free-to-you podcast for others to find us. Next, if you haven't yet, check out the website. You can find it at thekillfile.com. You can suggest a case for me to cover, fill out a listener files form, and it's also where you can find the merch shop. The merch shop has different fun and funny true crime themed items for your enjoyment, and it helps to spread the word about the podcast. We have some really fun t-shirts and tank tops. Make sure that you follow us on social media. We're on Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Be sure to follow on at least one platform for your chance to win some true crime gear that will be happening in the next few weeks. Take a look at the merch shop and find a t-shirt that you would want if you happen to win. The bonus content from the Kill File, called The Hidden Files, are on a break for now, but if you're interested in learning the type of podcast that this is, you can find a few episodes here on the main channel, or you can head over to the Kill File's Patreon to sample a few more and see if it's something you'd be interested in. It's similar to the Kill File in that they're dark and they usually have some true crime involved, but they include a variety of topics, not just true crime. Finally, I would be so thankful if you guys would share the podcast with a friend or a loved one. Help me to spread the word about the Kill File if you can, so that one day I can get some help and give you guys the best quality podcast and some more content. Also, for those of you who share posts and tag people or comment on different episodes or social media, thank you guys so much for doing that. I can't even tell you how grateful I am to each and every one of you who say something nice or suggest a case or just encourage me. It means the absolute world to me. I read all of the posts and love engaging with you guys, so feel free to drop a line anytime because I love it so much. Okay, that's it for business. Let's talk about today's case. Today, we are going to be talking about a murder of a woman that I don't think I've heard of before, and it's a pretty recent case, which surprised me. But I'm busy all the damn time, so I miss a lot of shit. We are going to be talking about the murder of Dr. Amie Harwick. Let's jump in. Some people don't struggle to let go. They'd rather destroy the person they can no longer have. Most of us will go through life with the ups and downs of heartbreak and breakups as we navigate our way through relationships as a captain on the sea. For people like Amie Harwick, however, those ups and downs may be more like hanging on the edge of a cliff, wondering if the person above you who you have entrusted your heart with is going to help you back up or break your fingers. In life, there are monsters who hunt strangers, and then there are monsters who already know where you live. In the early morning hours of February 15th, 2020, a call to 911 would shatter the silence of Hollywood Hills. By the time first responders arrived, Amie Harwick's life had been brutally stolen. For roommate Michael Harmon, hearing the sounds of his friend's death is something he can never escape, as he stated on a few interviews, including an interview on 48 Hours by Erin Moriarty titled Justice for Amie Harwick, and another interview for Death by Fame titled Celebrity Sexpert, that on the night of Valentine's Day, Amie had gone out with some friends for a night of fun, while her roommate Michael stayed in, drifting in and out of sleep. He would allege that sometime during the night he would hear a sound that what he would interpret as a plate falling, which he assumed was Amie's cat knocking one off the counter or something similar. Later, in the wee hours of the morning, he would wake to the sound of his roommate getting back from her night of fun, followed by the sounds of what he stated were blood-curdling screams. Michael would recant that night with horror on his face as he explained the sound he heard when Amie was presumably thrown to the floor and attacked, followed by the noises of strangulation. He would further say that he jumped up to find a cell phone and call for help as he knew something was happening. But as he was unable to locate his phone, he stated that he had to make the decision to leave his roommate and the house in search of a phone for help. Michael would end up at the neighbor's house calling 911, offering dispatch information as he frantically tried to tell them what was happening at his home. He stated he believed that someone may be at his home right now with Amie. When the authorities arrived to the scene and Michael was trying to explain the noises he heard and what he believed may be happening, the police were asking him to calm down, as could be heard on their body cam footage. As they were asking questions, trying to get an understanding of the situation, and lead detective on the case, Scott Masterson, explained as he was being interviewed on 48 Hours that the responding officers were immediately suspicious of Michael, not knowing what actually happened. As Michael tried to explain to the police that he believed someone had attacked his roommate, and he was unsure if the person was still there or not when he was asked by the authorities, it could be seen on the footage that Michael, along with officers, headed towards the home and towards the backyard when they would make a horrific discovery. As they headed towards the back of the home, the group realized they had someone laying on the ground beneath their third-story balcony. Person and extremely down-to-earth. I have always thought that he seemed like a good guy, but especially after researching this case. He was also interviewed about Amie, and you could just see it in his eyes, how much the loss impacted his life and soul, and it seemed to be absolutely devastating for him. When Drew and Amie had met, Drew wanted to take Amie out for some fun, so he took her and a group of like 10 people, their friends, to Disneyland, or Disney World, whichever one's over there, I can't remember, where they all just had a blast, playing around at a giant amusement park. Drew seemed to realize rather quickly that Amie was the one for him, as he made a comment about how he was going to end up marrying her to her friends. Amie ended up moving in with Drew, where the two seemed so blissfully happy. And eventually, Drew would take Amie to Paris and propose to his girlfriend, where she accepted. Now, after the engagement, the couple was trying to keep the next step of their relationship quieter because, at the time, Amie was being cyber-stalked by an old friend who was posting just the nastiest stuff about Amie online, mostly things that were absolutely untrue. It was just so sad to see what people had put her through, and for what? Jealousy? Hate? Like, why do people go out of their way to hate on other people, or trying to bring them down, or just put them down? Does it make them feel better about themselves? I mean, I know that we all get angry, and we say things that we wish we didn't, or we get spiteful and jealous and nasty at times. We're all human, but to make a point to put things out there about other people or seek out opportunities to spew hate about another person is just not what women should be doing for each other. There were things posted about Amie that her PhD was fake, that she was only after Drew's money, that she had actually been to jail for this or that, and that she would break up with people and then sue the shit out of them. Just baseless, tasteless comments from an old friend that were seemingly just for the shock value, and for others to maybe not like her. That's just my opinion. The incidents were talked about during interviews, but I don't know the situation or who the friend was, and I tried to research like what brought it about or who it was, and there's nothing out there. I'm sure it was a personal matter, but I'm going to say this little side note. This episode is full of little side notes. Sorry, but it's a triggering one for me, just the way it is. I've said this before, and I'll continue to say this. I cannot stand that we, as women, tear each other down for whatever reason. Usually it's jealousy or hate that we immediately feel towards each other when we see women who have things that we may not. As a woman in this world, I know how quickly we can judge or size each other up, finding flaws and immediately hating other women who are beautiful or successful or whatever because of our own insecurities or jealousy. I wish that we could stop doing this to each other, and instead of hating on each other and fighting each other, we should be supporting each other and helping each other and not staring beautiful women down because we're afraid our partner is checking them out or comparing ourselves to them. Why do we do that? Why does our society judge women immediately on their looks and body and make us feel like we are less than the women who are prettier than us? Look, we're all guilty of this at some point in our lives, and I'm not even denying it. I have done this more times than I want to admit. It seems to be automatic for us sometimes, and if you sit there and say that you've never immediately hated someone because they were pretty or had more than you, then we're lying, right? But we don't have to continue to be this way. If we're real with ourselves and the fact that it's not their fault that we're insecure or whatever, then maybe we can realize that by supporting each other and caring for each other, we can take away the power from the people or sometimes, sorry guys, but the men who treat us less than or try to keep us down by comparing us to other women. There is always going to be people out there that are more beautiful than us or skinnier than us or muscular or taller or shorter or whatever our own insecurities are. But who gives a fuck? I challenge you to catch yourself the next time that you see a woman who is beautiful or has a great body, and instead of trying to pick out the flaws and tell the people around you what's wrong with them to make yourself feel better, even if it's just to yourself, name the thing that makes her beautiful. Tell yourself she's not a threat to you. And maybe she's a wonderful person who's just living her life the same as you. Remember, just because someone is pretty or funny or outgoing, it doesn't mean you aren't as much. And it doesn't mean that they are perfect or don't have their own fucking issues like the rest of us. We all have our own shit, and we all have our own unique, amazing qualities that makes us beautiful and wonderful inside and out. Yay, women. Okay, rant over, back to Amie. So Drew and Amie are engaged now, but they're keeping it quiet due to her cyber stalking, and let's be honest, probably out of a little bit of fear from her ex, Gareth Pursehouse, and what he may do as a reaction. That's just my conjecture, but it seems like that's what people were kind of hinting at. National Enquirer found out about the engagement, and they came to Amie and told her that they were going to be running a story about her and Drew. And then when they brought her the information, her friend Robert would say that there was just so many things that were not true in the story. So instead of them publishing things that were not real, she decided to do an exclusive interview with them so it could be on her own terms. After this, Drew would introduce his fiancée to the world when he brought Amie onto The Price is Right, and he told the world they were going to be married. While Amie and Drew were engaged, I saw a little clip of Amie talking with maybe, I don't know if it was like her friend or publisher or her co-writer of the book, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry if I am. But they were either on like a podcast or like an interview on a radio show or something, and they were talking about how people were seemingly getting the wrong idea about her and Drew's relationship. Drew was 59 at the time and Amie was 36, which could have led people to make some assumptions about them that were just untrue. For example, that Amie was getting married to Drew for his money. Amie corrected this, saying, no, I have a degree and my own practice, and that she was doing just fine. She didn't seem to be after his money at all. It seemed through interviews with friends and family that Amie and Drew deeply cared for each other and were in love, but his fame would actually become a larger problem in their relationship. There was one instance where Amie took Drew to like an event that he went to supporting his fiancée, which he seemed proud of her during his interview. He was saying that Amie just wanted to help people, with tears in his eyes, stating especially women. It was heartbreaking to see. Well, during the event, Amie, I guess, as they were posing for pictures together, was asked to step aside because, once they saw Drew carry, they were thinking that maybe he was there presenting or speaking or had something to do with the event. Drew had to actually stop them to let them know that no, he was here for his fiancée in support of her, and it was not about him at all. Good for him. Amie had, at some point, started to feel the effects of Drew being so famous, and the fact that she was sort of being maybe overshadowed by his fame and being seen as the pretty young face. And she was upset about the way that people were perceiving her and maybe not acknowledging her for her own success and accomplishments, which I can completely understand if that's how she was feeling. I guess the cops had been called to Drew and Amie's home because of trespassers, which made Amie afraid when she would be home alone while Drew was gone or working or whatever. That's sad because I believe that we all deserve to feel safe in our own home. There came a point where Amie expressed to Drew how she kind of wished he wasn't famous so their relationship wouldn't be so affected by his success. About a month after the trespassing situation, it was said that Amie and Drew sadly called off their engagement, as their lives may have been kind of heading in different directions. And I'm sure it was hard for both of them. Amie was said to be absolutely devastated, even though it was her choice, that's not what she really wanted. Just 16 months later, Amie would reach back out to Drew wanting to reconnect, to which he agreed. They both seemed to miss each other and still have love for each other, but sadly, Amie's life would be cut short of that happening. Amie was now living with her roommate, Michael Herman, when she would unexpectedly run into a monster from her past, and the incident seemed to be the catalyst for things to come. While Amie was at something called the X-Biz Awards with a friend being photographed, her friend was said to have randomly stopped away to grab a drink or something. And this is when Gareth Pursehouse, who just happened to be there at the event himself as a photographer, caught sight of his ex-girlfriend. And let me tell you guys, he apparently lost his shit. Yeah, he went right up to her on the red carpet and started yelling at her, calling her a bitch, saying she ruined his life. And witnesses would say that she quickly walked outside with Pursehouse to talk things over and calm him down. She would later describe being caught off guard to her friends and stated she immediately went into therapist mode, seemingly de-escalating the situation with Pursehouse. I was curious why he didn't get into trouble for approaching her the way that he did, but I guess at this point it had been around a decade since they had last seen each other and the restraining order had expired, so he was legally allowed to. Amie would end up talking to Pursehouse outside the event for what sources would say was about an hour. during which he would allegedly cry, fall to the ground, and curl up into the fetal position while doing so. Look, I am all for people being allowed to express their feelings and crying or whatever we need to for our human emotions. We should be allowed to feel them. But if just the sight of Amie was enough for this grown-ass man to interrupt the awards' red carpet photo shoot, start screaming at her, and then fall to the ground crying in the fetal position, something is wrong there, dude. What the fuck? You couldn't deal with your own emotions for long enough to walk away during the photo shoot and awards and maybe reach out later or something? Amie, being the wonderful person she was, had gone into therapist mode, trying to help Pursehouse and trying to fix things for him. But of course, there are some things you just cannot fix. Pursehouse told her that he thought about her all the time and he was jealous of the other men in her life and he wanted to be with her. She would tell friends and family after this encounter that she was so afraid for her safety, that she didn't attend the after party that she had planned on going to and was even invited to. This chance encounter seemed to be what really reignited his absolute obsession with Amie, and the stalking and harassment to follow. Following the incident, Amie wanted to set up security at her and Michael's home, as she was visibly concerned for her own safety and well-being, worried Pursehouse would break into her home again. Michael described the French doors that the intruder ultimately did break into the night Amie was attacked, that she had told the security people when they came to her home that they needed to secure that door somehow, and this door particularly seemed to worry her. She was ultimately right. Amie was under the suspicion that Pursehouse may be monitoring her phone and apps because he was a computer genius. She said that he wasn't sure which accounts he may have had access to, but she knew something wasn't right. Amie decided to carry pepper spray with her everywhere and also to start sharing her location with her good friend Robert, just in case. Which is just so scary and sad that she was that afraid of this man after just running into him one time. She had to immediately change things in her life to protect herself and her home, which I hate for her. I wish this country took stalking more seriously because they don't. And without any proof, there is nothing the cops will do for you. They literally say sometimes that unless someone hurts you or threatens you without proof, their hands are tied. And it's awful because there should be divisions dedicated to finding this information out for people who are being stalked or preyed upon. And it shouldn't take someone being physically assaulted or killed before there's action. It seemed like Amie may have felt the same way because she told Robert that she didn't think the police were actually going to help her. As Pursehouse got a hold of Amie's new number and started blowing up her phone, she did not respond or engage, but rather immediately blocked him. District attorneys on the case would state they felt that Pursehouse was trying to manipulate Amie and snake his way back into her life by the texts and calls and the way that he was turning everything around on Amie to make himself the victim. Another side note, let me tell you from experience with an abuser who mentally and physically abuses you that they will not stop short of anything to flip things around, manipulate you to feel bad for them, make themselves be the victim in every situation, and make you feel like you're going crazy and that you're nothing without them, or say anything to get back into your life. And sometimes it works. You let them back in, believing that they will change or that it wasn't as bad as it was, or minimizing their abuse. I'm going to give you a little example of an incident that happened to me and how I ended up back with my abuser for whatever reason. There was a night where him and I were at a bar with a group of friends drinking too much and thought we were having a short stint of fun. That evening, when we got into an argument about something, and I had gone to my car to sit and sober up because I knew I shouldn't be driving. So I'm sitting there in the driver's seat with my purse in the passenger seat, or on the passenger seat floor, when he comes flying up to the passenger window trying to get into the car. And I was scared and the doors were locked and he was like screaming. And I'm thinking, fuck no, I'm not going to let you in. I didn't know what he was going to do. And this wasn't my first rodeo with this fucker. Well, he then proceeded to punch through my passenger side window, shattering it, and trying to steal my purse because I had the money. I grabbed my purse and I wouldn't let it go. Glass was everywhere. And as I'm trying to pull back on my bag, of course, because it was my money and my wallet and ID and whatever, I was able to hold on to my purse. I got out of my car to say, like, what the fuck are you doing? He had that, like, staring, scary blackness in his eyes, like he was almost not in control of himself and wasn't really there. You know what I mean? He gets over to me, and in front of a crowd of people now staring at us because he's screaming and had punched through my car window, he fucking headbutted me right there in front of everyone. I think I fell to the ground. I can't really remember, but I remember it fucking hurt. And I was so stunned and shocked, and he took off. I remember asking the people around me, like, what do I do? I was just so caught off guard and scared. Like, what should I do to everyone around me? And they told me, call the cops, call an ambulance. And I think I was planning on doing that, but it turned out that somebody else had already called the cops after seeing what happened. When the cops arrived, I was now alone, in the parking lot, crying, scratched up from the glass, and in pain from being headbutt. I can't remember if the cops took me or the ambulance to the hospital, where they were checking my eyes and my eyelids for shards of glass, pulling out whatever they thought they saw, and taking a report on what happened. I remember being so completely alone. Like, once people knew the cops were coming, they fucking bolted and just left me there. It's so sad. Not one person waited with me or made sure that I was all right or that fucker wasn't coming back. Thankfully, he didn't. But what the fuck? Do you know how many times I've seen a car accident and have been the one to actually jump out of my own car with 911 on the phone and have waited and provided aid to the person who was hurt? More than a few times, because it's the right thing to do. So if you ever see something like that, take the 10 or 15 minutes out of your life to comfort that person, to help them. Believe me, that shit is traumatizing enough as it is without having to feel all alone in your feelings and safety. Fuck. Anyway, so after that night, of course, I'm worried about my abuser. And I knew that he was going to be arrested once they found him, and I don't remember exactly how, but he ended up getting a hold of me. And of course, he had sliced his hand wide open from punching through my window, and he needed a ride, and he made me feel bad for him, and it was like, it wasn't really him. I can't even remember if he even said sorry or not, but I ended up bringing him back to our home, making excuses on how he accidentally punched my window to our older roommate so that I wouldn't have to admit what he actually did, minimizing all of it. After all of that night, and that was just one incident and not even the worst one, I felt fucking bad for him. Tell me how that works. How do I get fucking headbutted and feel bad that he fucked up his own hand? Like, what in the actual fuck? Also, who fucking headbutts someone? That is some scary ass rage shit. To headbutt someone? Jesus Christ. Anyways, moving on, just wanted to throw out an example of how easily someone can flip things and manipulate their way back into someone's life after having just put their hands on you or abusing someone. It's terrifying how much control they have over you. As Pursehouse was trying to worm his way back into Amie's life, she was smart and immediately blocked him, which is what they say is the best way to handle harassment or stalking, to not even engage or react, because that's what they want, and it could give them maybe that sliver of hope that isn't really there. Pursehouse left voicemails where he sounded sad and played the victim, just wanting to talk to her, etc. She did all of the right things, and she took precautions and knew that this was a scary man capable of something horrible. Amie ended up writing herself an email about the situation with Pursehouse and told her friend Robert that if anything ever happened to her, it was her ex who had hurt her. It's heartbreaking to me that she knew that he may not stop. Enough to email herself with evidence and information means she truly was fearful for her life, which absolutely kills me for her. On Valentine's Day 2020, as Amie had just reached out to Drew, I believe the day before, wanting to reconnect, she went out with a group of friends that night for some fun, or leaving around 7 p.m. That night, a next-door neighbor's Ring camera would capture a man in a baseball cap and gloves walking up to the camera, as the first thing that he did was to place his hand over the camera to stop the movement. Once the movement was stopped, the camera stopped recording, and this is when a man who was said to look pretty similar to Gareth Pursehouse allegedly jumped over the fence into Amie and Michael's backyard. This is around the time that Michael heard a noise that he interpreted as a plate hitting the floor, but was most likely, in fact, a window pane of the French door being broken. A little after 1 a.m., Michael heard Amie coming home, and not long after, started hearing screams and a scuffle coming from her room, followed by the sounds of what he said were choking, but what we would say is strangulation. Remember, choking is on an item or food, but strangulation is what one person does to another. Michael was said to have screamed towards the intruder to try and scare him off, which could have startled him. According to the district attorneys, they believe that Pursehouse may have absolutely had no idea that anyone else was in the house or lived there because he had not been there that they know of. This is when Michael fled the house to find help because he couldn't locate his phone to call the police. He would later on say that he had survivor's guilt, which I can only imagine, because although even Amie's own parents said that he did the exact right thing, I can imagine the guilt of being like, why didn't I just run into her room? Why didn't I hit the attacker? Why didn't I go after him? Of course, he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know if the guy or whoever it was had a gun. He was just doing the best that he could. The police, along with Michael, would find Amie under the balcony of her room in the backyard. As the police had taken Michael in to question him, they called Robert into the station, and they actually ended up interviewing Drew Carey and possibly others as well in connection to Amie. While people were being interviewed, they would be told the unfortunate news that Amie had succumbed to her injuries and had passed from the attack. While Penny and Tom Harwick were headed to bed that evening, there was a knock at the door with the local police telling them the heartbreaking news that their daughter had been murdered. Penny said they knew immediately who had killed her because Amie was only ever afraid of one person. While Robert was being interviewed, he said that he immediately told the police who he thought had attacked and killed his friend. The police obtained a search warrant and went to find Pursehouse to place him under arrest. As the authorities were working the crime scene, they had seen not only pieces of her rosary necklace that led them to believe that Amie had most likely put up a fight, but the syringe filled with a yellow-brown liquid that was thought to be heroin. Turned out the syringe was not filled with heroin, but rather liquid nicotine that was enough to kill at least one adult person easily. The police then thought that maybe the intent was to inject Amie with the nicotine, causing her death, but that because she fought back and Michael was home, Pursehouse may have changed course. They also found on the next door neighbor's Ring camera that the man who looked like Pursehouse jumped back over the fence and fled after the attack. The authorities found Pursehouse at his home and they arrested him without incident. He was checked for injuries and photographed having a black eye and what was believed to be a bite mark on one of his inner arms. He also had a few cuts to his stomach. What Pursehouse may not have realized that night was that he accidentally cut himself entering the home through the broken French door pane, as they would later find his blood on the glass that matched his DNA. With the search warrant, the authorities found the exact brand and matching syringes with the same content in his home. After the autopsy of Amie, her cause of death would be noted as blunt force injuries to her head and torso, with a contribution of manual strangulation, with the coroner ruling it a homicide. Amie was noted as having defense wounds and bruises on her arms and hands assumed to be from the struggle. Maricela, Amie's good friend, was the one who would do Amie's hair and makeup for her funeral, with Maricela saying that she would never have known how bad it was had she not been able to be the one to do that. She said that there were bruises around her neck and what looked like handprints from the strangulation. So sickening, and I cannot imagine. There were many people at her funeral, including the man that she really seemed to love the most, Drew Carey. For whatever reason, there was now not really a question of whether or not Pursehouse had killed Amie, but rather if it was first or second-degree murder. I'm also not sure why, but Pursehouse was let out on bond awaiting his trial with a set of rules, like he wasn't supposed to leave the city or be near certain things like the airport. They ended up finding Pursehouse close to LAX where they believed that he was going to try to run for it, so instead, they revoked his bond, rearrested him, and put him back in jail to await his trial. During his trial, the prosecution explained it was their belief that Pursehouse broke into Amie's home and lay in wait for her to get back, where he then proceeded to attack her, trying to kill her. First-degree murder. They even played a taped jailhouse recording where he seemed to have no empathy, talking to a friend, referring to himself as a bad boy now, laughing about it. The defense, however, tried to basically blame it on Amie, saying that Pursehouse had only broken into her home and lay in wait to talk to her, that he just wanted to have a chat and nothing more. And that syringe of nicotine, that wasn't going to be for Amie. Pursehouse was planning on talking to Amie and then committing suicide right there. Yeah, okay. The prosecution brought up the point that Pursehouse covered the camera while wearing gloves and asked why would he bother to hide himself or cover the evidence or tracks if he was planning on committing suicide after whatever confrontation was about to happen. Yeah, it was weak, and it was complete bullshit, were the words right out of Amie's mom, Penny, which I really liked her parents. They just seemed like wonderful and neat people who sadly lost their daughter in a horrific way. I'm so sorry for them. Pursehouse's defense was that he just wanted to talk to her, but that it was Amie who started the attack on him, trying to fight him. That it wasn't his intention to hurt her at all. Bullshit. The prosecution said they believe that Gareth Pursehouse attacked Amie, probably intending to use the syringe, but allegedly strangled her first, And then they feel that Pursehouse picked Amie up and either dropped or possibly threw her off the balcony, all of which was her cause of death. After the jury was left with the case to make their decision, Amie's parents and the district attorneys started to get a little nervous when the court adjourned for the first day, as Penny was wondering, what is there to think about or discuss so long? They all knew they had a solid case, but you never know, and it's nerve-wracking for them all. Before court was adjourned for the second day, everyone was called back into the courtroom because the jury had come to a conclusion. Gareth Pursehouse was convicted of first-degree murder with a special circumstance of lying in wait and first-degree burglary, and then sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Good riddance, you sick fuck. And that, my friends, is the harrowing and heart-wrenching story of the murder of Dr. Amie Harwick. So this case really struck a chord with me for probably reasons that we can see, but it sat with me in a whole different way in the fact that Amie was such a fighter and she wanted to help other women. I personally feel that there needs to be more women like that who want to help people and fight that good fight. Watching Drew Carey and her friends just talk about her really gave you a sense of just how much everyone loved her and adored her, and I'm just so sorry for them all that they had to lose her in such a horrific way. What kills me the most is how scared she had already been from this obsessive man, and it was all reignited from the run-in to the point where he fucking killed her. I just don't understand the thought process there. Is it like, well, if I can't have her, no one can? Is it that they're just so angry and hurt from their own distortions that they feel revengeful? How is stalking, screaming, and hurting the person that you supposedly love going to help you get them back? It's not. I'm so saddened by the fact that Amie didn't get to be with the one person that she seemed to truly love and who truly loved her back, which she deserved, but instead was taken from her friends and family. There are so many cases of women abused and stalked, not just women, but most often it's women, and not protected, who end up being killed. And the scary thing is that you just don't know when or if that abuser will cross that line into murder and what makes them do so. They say when you're getting out of a relationship and trying to leave, the person that's being abused is most in danger. And after seeing Pursehouse and talking to him, it was probably like getting out all over again for her. After her death, I did see that her loved ones started a petition in the state of California, which would help prevent restraining orders from expiring. But it was right when COVID hit, and it lost its traction, I guess. It got me thinking, why the fuck do they expire? I remember being pregnant with my oldest son and still with my abuser, and I even went to court and tried to help it get lifted off of him from thinking, now that I'm pregnant, things would be different and change. And I remember the judge refusing to lift it, saying that now there was a child involved, and that he believed my abuser was a danger to myself and the baby, and he would not lift it early. These things are definitely there for the victim's protection, right? So it got me thinking, why do they have an expiration date? Are there ever times where an abuser is able to stop and be better enough to get back with the person or whatever without having issues again? I would be curious to know. I understand if it's for a fight protection, like you and a neighbor or you and a person you don't get along with or whatever, but domestic abuse relationships, I'm surprised that they expire. Well, I hope I didn't ruin your guys' day too much by telling you this fucked up story. I never really know how to end these things after telling you guys such awful shit that we all want to hear and learn from. If you or someone you love is in a domestically abusive relationship, help is available through the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. And just remember that you are not alone and you are worth saving. Come on back next Monday when we will cover another case here on The Kill File where nothing stays buried forever. Stay safe, you guys. Bye.
Thank you so much for hanging out and listening to today's episode here on The Kill File. Check out the website at TheKillFile.com to suggest a case or find the merch shop. Follow us on social media for weekly reminders about episodes, to share your thoughts, or to find bonus pictures from the cases. Remember to lock your doors, lock your windows, and stay safe. See you next Monday for another story here on The Kill File.